going to be putting the facial features on our puppet. Any of these features that we make can be tweaked to your own design. You can make eyes or ears bigger or smaller, whatever you want for your character. This is just one example. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. The first thing we're gonna do is put his nose on. About a month ago, I made 2 separate videos on how to make noses. One of them was like this and used a vacuum former to make different types of noses. And the other video was this one, which shows how to make a larger nose that I think is better for most monster characters or bigger puppets in general. That nose is a little too big for this guy. So I'm gonna show you one more really quick technique for making a very simple nose. Some puppets use a contrasting color for the nose. I'm gonna have this one match the rest of his body. I'm gonna take a scrap of foam and cut off a piece about the size of the nose that I wanna make. And then I'll start trimming it down and shaping it. The next thing I do is I take this foam shape and I put it face down in the center of a small scrap of fleece, the same color that you want the nose. Now I'm gonna carefully wrap it around while marking the edges. Depending on the shape of your nose, you should be left with a circle or an oval shape. Connect those lines. Next, I'm going to take a needle and thread and loosely do a running stitch all the way around the circumference of the circle. Make sure you leave both ends of the thread out. If you pull on both of those ends, it'll start to gather the circle, forming a little pouch. Take your piece of foam and put it straight down into the center and gently pull tight. And then I use the rest of the thread to stitch it closed. And there we have a perfect little nose. I like to put the nose on first because it's easier to get into the center. Then it's simple to position the eyes and other features around that symmetrically. So we start off by finding about the center and pinning it on where I think I want it. Now the nose placement can heavily affect the way this character looks. That looks good to me. Now I'm gonna stitch it on. To stitch this on, I use a ladder stitch. Some people also call it a slip stitch. One more quick tip. Anytime you knot the thread, you don't want to trim the thread really close to the knot. You must leave a long tail. That'll keep it from coming undone. So this is how you hide the tail inside the puppet. You go back in the same hole that you just came in after you knot it, push it through, across to the other side. There we go. Pull that through. Now pull that kind of tight. Then I trim it, and then the thread gets sucked back in. And there we have a nice little nose. Now let's make some ears. Start off just by drawing a simple pattern. I want mine about that long. And let's see how just a simple ear like that looks. Now this might be a little big for him, but let's see how that looks. Here we go. I think I'm gonna go with that. I'll take a little bit more off the top. There we go. Yep, I think I'm gonna go with that shape. Now inside the foam, I like to use the stabilizer fabric. It's almost like a thin headliner. It's used for stiffening fabric purses and sometimes in structure for costumes. I have a link to this down in the description. But you could use foam or felt as well. So I cut 4 squares of fabric, each that can fit the shape of the ear. Next, I sandwich them together face to face. Then I trace the shape of the ear on the back of the fabric. Just to clarify, each ear should have 3 layers. The traced piece face to face with another piece of fleece, and then the foam underneath, making 3 layers. Then go ahead and stitch them up. Some of the pieces shifted just a little bit, it won't make a big deal as long as you didn't sew over any of the edges. To clean it up, we just have to trim around it. It's easier to tell where to cut if you flip it over and look at the back. Cut about 1/4 inch around the stitch line. Make sure you're cutting through all 3 layers. And then right up to the edge on this side. Next, you just turn them inside out from the grain. And then the foam will go on the inside. You might want to trim a little bit of the extra foam. Then just stitch them closed. For this, I just use a simple whip stitch. Now we're ready to sew these on. First, I'm going to pin them down to see how it looks, to get the placement that I want. That's how he's looking right now, and I'm really liking that a lot. Make sure it's even. Now I'm going to use the same ladder stitch that I used to put the nose on, going all the way around the ear. And there are his ears. Now it's time to put his eyes on. Based on the comments, I decided to go with the yellow eyes. Now the best way to go about putting the eyes on is that what I do is I actually pin them in place first. So let me find a place where I like them, right about there. And I actually put pins going all the way around the eyes to kind of hold them in place. So that's about what I'm looking for right there. Now these pins are going to make it much easier for me to place the eyes in the exact same spot after I put the glue on. So let me do that now. To glue them on, I like to use contact cement. Coat the back of this eye with the contact cement. I'll set that down to dry. And I'll do the same with this one. Now let's put the contact cement right onto the fleece. Now this is going to be a very secure bond. It's not going to go anywhere. And also, since these eyes are not hollow, we'll get a really solid attachment. So let that dry for a couple minutes. Okay, they're all dried up. Now let's put these eyes on. Just right, lined up with the pins. Okay. And then I'll get this one on. Okay. And now that they're on there, I'll press them in real good. Take out these pins. And there are the eyes. All right, now time for the pupils. If you want to see how I made these, I have a whole video just on pupils that you can click on right here. Okay, so let's put these on. That is looking good to me. There we have a couple eyes. Let's make them some thin eyebrows out of felt too. Just take a little piece of felt, clip some off, whatever size you want. Then gently spray them with some glue. Okay, now my eyebrows are here, they're all dry. Let's carefully stick them on. About like that, looks good to me. Makes them look a little more lively. Perfect, perfect. Now the last thing we're gonna do in this video is make a foam tongue. I'm gonna use a little piece of L200 EVA foam. I start off just by drawing a simple shape for a tongue that I want. Kind of heart shaped. Then I carefully cut it out with scissors. I have a shape kind of like that. Now I'm just gonna do some sculpting with the scissors themselves, taking the edge off of it, trying to make it into more of an organic shape. I can make the little crease in the tongue by bending this in half, and then carefully just trimming a little bit off the edge. I start to get that little crease in the middle there. Okay, I just do a little more shaping. Next, I do even more shaping with sandpaper to kind of smooth it all out. So here's the tongue all sculpted out. I'm gonna give it a quick coat of spray paint and we're ready to put it in. It's all painted, let's put it in. To glue it in, I'm just gonna use some contact cement. So I'll spread it right on there. And what I actually like to do is use it like a stamp, and it'll leave like a residue inside the mouth so they can pull it off. Now that's not enough glue to reattach it necessarily, but it marks it. So that now I can go in with the brush here, and watch out for strings, and then I can lace them in there. You could also use fabric tack. That works well. And then once it's tacky, you can just set it down in. And then there we have our puppet. He's almost done. He just needs arms and an outfit. Now looking at him, I can't quite decide whether I want him to be a rod puppet or a live hand. I'm leaning more toward rod puppet based on the design, but I'll let you guys decide. Leave a comment below whether you'd like to see him be a live hand puppet or a rod puppet. Though I have a feeling I know what you guys are gonna pick. That's it for now. See you next time.